Welcome to the class, guys. So in this class we are going to learn what is DNS server and how to configure the DNS server in ADDS, and we will also configure or set up forward lookup zone and reverse lookup zone on DNS server. So type your password and log into your server. So we are now on domain controller predator.tc and open your server manager. Hit on start menu. Server manager is opening by itself and it will open by default on servers. So let me wait. So this is a server manager dashboard. As you can see, we have ADDS, DHCP and DNS roles are installed. If you don't find DNS, you need to go to manage, add roles and features, and you have to select what roles you need to install on this ADDS. Click on next, role based, next. Select the domain controller, next. So you need to click on DNS server, which is already installed. So let me hit on cancel button. Before proceeding configuring forward lookup zones and reverse lookup zones, let us learn what is DNS. As you can see in the slide, DNS stands for domain name system, and it is a protocol in web or network infrastructure that translates domains names to IP address. In simple terms, DNS server translates domain name, that is FQDN, which stands for fully qualified domain name, to its corresponding IP address. For example, IP address of google.com, as you can see in the slide, is 142.250.195 and 174. And if you type google.com in your browser URL, then DNS server will find a resource record in its forward lookup zone and translates the google.com name, which is a friendly name, to the corresponding IP address, which is 142.250.195 and 174. We humans have no capability to remember something or someone with number names like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If we had that capability, my parents would have not named me as Kiran. Instead, they would name me as something like 1789632/12/41/7/E. Okay, weird, right? Where E stands for Earth, 7 stands for Asia, 41 stands for India, 12 stands for my province name, which is state Telangana. Then my number, like 1789632, right? Funny, it's just like your car number plate. Hence, I am named as Kiran Tirkovela by my parents. Easy to remember, right? Similarly, friends, on internet there are cartload of servers and computers, right? In order to find or communicate with any server, we need its IP address, and we cannot remember that IP address. I don't know IP of facebook.com, I don't know IP of twitter.com, INSECTECHS.com, linkedin.com, udemy.com, and so on. I only remember these friendly names, right? So in order to link these friendly domain names to its server IP address, someone has to work for us like a translator, just like translating English to French, Urdu to Mandarin, German to Hindi, and Facebook to its IP address, and vice versa, and so on. And that translator is called as DNS or DNS server. DNS server maps FQDN, that is fully qualified domain name, to its IP addresses and stores this mapping information of friendly domain names to IP address in its records, and it is also called as DNS records, which again are also called as zone files. So in our lab scenario, we have this computer 1-insectechs.in and computer-2.insectechs.in, whose corresponding IP addresses according to this example slide are 192.168.1.13 and 192.168.1.14 respectively. And this mapping information is nothing but configuring your forward lookup zone and reverse lookup zone. And as you can see in the slide, the definition of forward lookup zone is DNS zone in which hostname is resolved to IP address. It means that if you type google.com in your browser, it will be resolved to the IP address 142.250.198 and 174. And if you want the exact reverse functionality, then that is nothing but a reverse lookup zone. And reverse lookup zone is a DNS zone in which IP is resolved to corresponding host name. It means that whenever you want who is the domain name that is correspondent to particular IP address, for example 142.250.195, 174, then your query will be resolved, that is your IP address will be resolved to google.com. So reverse lookup zone is exactly reverse of forward lookup zone, and forward lookup zone is exactly reverse of reverse lookup zone. Now let us log into the domain controller. Now I am on Windows 2019 server and it is a domain controller predator-dc, as you know. Now you have to start the server manager. As for that, click on the start menu and click on the server manager thumbnail. So this is the server manager dashboard, and you should see the roles we have installed like ADDS, DHCP and DNS. Now we have to configure forward lookup zone and a reverse lookup zone. Okay, if you have not installed DNS role, please watch the earlier video. Okay, so in order to configure the zone files, click on the tools and click on DNS. Select DNS in the drop down. You should see the DNS manager console, and here you can see our DNS server predator DC, forward lookup zone, reverse lookup zone, test points and conditional forwards. If you click on the forward lookup zone, by default there is a DNS zone INSECTECHS.in. Drop down and click on it, and by default we have few entries like start of authority, SOA entry, name server entry and host entry. These are all the records, and the type is SOA, name server and host. Now if you click on the reverse lookup zone, we don't have any zones. So in the forward lookup zone, let me delete this zone. Delete. Yes. Click on yes to delete. So now we don't have any zones over here. At this point, this server acts as a DNS cache server. So click on the forward lookup zone, right click and add new zone. The new zone wizard has opened, and in here we can create new zones for our DNS server over here. So as you can see, DNS translate DNS names to related data such as IP. Click on the next, and in the zone wizard we have to mention the zone type. There are three types of zones: primary zone, secondary zone and a stub zone. So what is a primary zone? Primary zone creates a copy of zone that can be updated directly on the server. Basically, primary zones are master copies of DNS zones in which resource records are created and managed, like the A record, name server record, SOA record, CNAME record, alias record. These are all the records that can be directly created over here and can be managed on the server itself. While the secondary zone is a copy of a primary zone, and you cannot install the secondary zone on this server because we are creating a primary zone. Secondary zones are created on a separate DNS server in which actually primary zones are not there. And what is a stub zone? Stub zone creates a copy of zone containing only name servers, SOA, etc. Basically, stub zone is a copy of zone that contains records used to locate all the name servers and authoritative name servers, etc. Okay. So here you have to select store the zone in Active Directory. This is because we have installed a DNS role in this Active Directory itself, and we have created DNS server, and now we are going to create a zones. So this becomes Active Directory integrated zones on this domain controller. Okay. So click next. We have three options in the replication scope, that is Active Directory zone replication scope. So how do you want to replicate these zone files? Okay, all these zones. So we have three options. The option one is to all DNS servers running on the domain controllers in this forest. So this is not the option we want to select. To all the DNS servers running on domain controller in this domain. So INSECTECHS.in is our domain, and we should replicate to all DNS server running on this domain controller. This is the option we should select, and it is by default. And we will also not select the third option, to all domain controllers in this domain, for Windows 2000 compatibility. So we will select the second option, click on next. Now you have to type the zone name. The zone name would be like INSECTECHS.in. As you can see example over here, the zone name example would be like newzone.microsoft.com. So I am giving as INSECTECHS.in, and this is the name of my zone. Click on next. Dynamic update. How do you want to update these zones? Do you want a dynamic update, or you don't opt to allow a dynamic updates? By default, this is option, allow only secure dynamic updates. Basically, it is required for Active Directory environment, but I'm selecting do not allow any dynamic updates for this tutorial. And when you choose this option, you have to update the records on these zones manually. Okay, you have to update all the records manually. Click next. Finish. So we have new zone, that is INSECTECHS.in, and by default 3 entries have been created. That is 3 records: host A record, NS server record and SOA record. If you double click on this record, you will see the host name is Predator DC, which is the name of our domain controller, and fully qualified domain name is predator-dc.insectechs.in. And this fully qualified domain name, which is predator-dc.insectechs.in, is mapped to this IP. So this is called as mapping domain name to an IP address. Click on OK. If I select the option update associated pointer record, and if there is a zone in the reverse lookup zone, this pointer recorder will be updated. I don't want to select this option because we are going to manually create this PTR record. Click OK. Now let me create a record over here. Before creating a record, let me also create a reverse lookup zone. So we don't have any zone over here. Select the reverse lookup zone. Right click, new zone, in the wizard, next, and you have to follow the same process. Primary zone, next, and again the second option, to all DNS server running on domain controller in this domain, INSECTECHS.in, next. And now we have type of IP addresses we have to choose. There are two type of IP versions, v4 and v6. As you know, we are creating this zone, reverse lookup zone, only for IP address v4. So select the option 1, click on next. Since we are creating a reverse lookup zone, and in order to identify that reverse lookup zone, we have to give the name of the zone if we know. And if we don't know the name of the zone, we have to type the network ID. In this case, the network ID is 192.168.1. You have to mention the first 3 octets in your IP address. That is octet 1, octet 2 and octet 3, and octet 4 comprises IP address, but you have to mention only 3 octets, and 4th is not enabled over here, as you can see. Okay, and this would be the name of the zone. Click on the next. Now in a dynamic update section in the wizard, select do not allow the dynamic updates, as you have done in the forward lookup zone. Do not allow dynamically update, and I am selecting this option, do not allow dynamic updates, for this tutorial purpose only. In corporate environment, you have to select option 1, but for this tutorial, let me select do not allow dynamic updates. Click next, and now finish. And this is a summary of the zone that we are going to create, that is reverse lookup zone. The name of the zone would be 1.168.192.in-adder.arpa, and the lookup type is reverse lookup zone. Now click on the finish to finish the creation of reverse lookup zone. Now if you click on the drop down over here in reverse lookup zone, we have the zone. By default, we have 2 entries again, 2 records, MS record and SOI record. We have 3 records over here and 2 records in reverse lookup zone. Now let me go to the forward lookup zone, and in the zone INSECTECHS.in, let me create a new record. In order to create a new record, select the zone file, and in the right side pane, right click on the empty space and click on new host. If you can see over here, this is a new host, and we have A and 4As. A represent IP version 4 and 4As represent IP version 6. So click on new host. Now we are adding a new host. For that, you have to know the name of your computer, and the computer name is COMPUTR-1, and the associated IP address is 192.168.1.93. So now we are mapping fully qualified domain name, that is computer-1.insectechs.in, which is fully qualified domain name, to this IP address. Like I am writing my friend name over here and his mobile number here and saving in my mobile. This is as simple as that. Now if we click over here, then a pointer recorder will be created in the reverse lookup zone. So let me add host. Okay, a host record computer-1.insectechs.in was successfully created. Click OK. Done. Now if you go to reverse lookup zone, and in the zone there is no pointer record over here, so let me refresh it. So we have a pointer record. So let me delete it because I want to manually create this pointer record. Go to INSECTECHS.in zone and let me create another record. So to create another record, follow the same process. Select forward lookup zone, in the zone INSECTECHS.in, in the right side empty space, right click, add new host and type the computer name. And this is the fully qualified domain name of this computer, and associate IP address is 192.168.1.95. and I do not want to create a pointer record or PTR record, so add host. The host record computer-2.insectechs.in was successfully created. OK. Done. Let me refresh. So we have 2 records which we have created and 3 that were created when we have created this zone. Now in the reverse lookup zone, in the zone which is 1.168.192.in-addr ARPA, we don't have any pointer records. Let me refresh. As you can see, there is no pointer records. So let me create a pointer record. In order to create a pointer record, select reverse lookup zone, select the zone and right click in the empty space, create a new pointer record. Now we have a window where you can create a new PTR record. Here we have to mention the host IP address, because in the reverse lookup zone we are mapping IP address to a domain name. Okay, so you have to know the IP address. You also must know the host name to which you are pointing this IP address. Okay, now the host IP address is 192.168.1.93. okay, so the fully qualified domain name is 93.1.168.192.in-addr.arpa. so if you know the host name, you can directly write over here, and if you don't know, you can simply browse from the forward lookup zone. In order to do that, click on the browse, select the DNS server which is predator-dc, double click on it, and this is the forward lookup zones. Double click on it, and if you have many zones, they are listed over here. So select the zone INSECTECHS.in, double click, and now you have 3 host I records. So 192.168.1.93 is a pointer record of host name computer1, as you can see over here. So select the computer1 host and click OK, and click OK again in order to create PTR record. As you can see, we have a new PTR record. Double click to see the details. Click OK. Let me create another PTR record as well. Right click, new pointer. Now the IP address is 192.168.1.95. FQDN is 95.168.192 in addr.arpa. Hard to read, so I'm just reading. Now write the host name if you know, or else click on browse, select the server, forward lookup zone, select the zone, double click, and select the host. Host is computer2, 192.168.1.95. click on OK. OK. Now right click and refresh. We have created zones. We have created zones in both forward lookup zone and reverse lookup zone, and we have created pointer records in reverse lookup zone and host records in a forward lookup zone. So that's it in this class, guys. See you in the next class. Thank you for watching the video, and do subscribe to the YouTube channel INSECTECHS.